Okay, folks, you can see for yourself. You'll be able to witness for yourself. Danielle Smith, the Premier of Alberta, she denies, she quoted on BREITBART. Anyway, Steve Bannon's original station, where she stated that, well, you just might say it's election interference. So let's go to the main screen so you can see for yourself. Holy moly. Is it true? Is it true? Okay. This is the SoundCloud recording from March the 8th, 2025. You can see for yourself, folks. There you go. Premier, they kind of spelled it wrong. Danielle Smith, Alberta, March 8th, 2025. Let's go down to the comments. AB, that's for Alberta. Alberta Highboy. Good going, Danielle. You know you're on the right track and you give a bunch of liberal mouthpieces a verbal wedgie. Tell it like it is, girl. Long live Alberta. Right on. Next guy says, if anyone thinks this falls afoul of our election rules and foreign interference, I'd encourage you to take 5 minutes and report it via Elections Canada. There's an anonymous option if you don't want to leave your name. Link this SoundCloud post for your evidence. Another comment here. Absolutely embarrassing for a Canadian Premier to think more about USA than Canada. Traitorous, in a way. Elections Canada should take action on her. Cowtown Music Heritage, or Cowtown Musical Heritage. This mouth breathing little freak of a host doesn't even know the difference between the words premier and premiere. Well, it was a premiere which included the premier. How's that sound? We fixed it. And the traitorous Premier Smith will meet the same awful end that will come to Trump and Musk. It isn't going to be pretty. Stay tuned for further developments on that one. Next one, I can now listen to this host breathe. Well, what are you going to do? Vimy or Vichy? Well, that's a good question. He's speaking French. Jackson Sound, what a dirty sellout. Whoa. Well, that's all we're going to say about that for now. So I'm going to fast forward a bit to about 5:54 on the dial. And then we'll listen to it from there.
Okay, so now, somewhat we'll see. But the point is that...
okay, so there we are, 5:55. Ooh, that's like 15. 1 and 5 equals 6. Depends how you do your numerology. Is that possible there, Michael? Dang. That is possible. So, we're just going to go right into it. You can see, you can hear it for yourself. You'll hear exactly. I'm going to play the rest of this recording. We started at the 5-minute and 55-second mark, and you can hear it for yourself.
You know, I would think that you would support a conservative prime minister in Canada. You're one of the few conservative premiers in Canada. One would think that a conservative prime minister would probably have a better time working with President Trump on these things, and it wouldn't be as tumultuous as what we're seeing right now. Is that something that you think is likely here? Are the Canadian people ready to go back the other way here and go away from the liberal side that we've seen under Trudeau and whoever replaces him?
Before the tariff war, I would say yes. I mean, Pierre Poilievre is the name of the Conservative Party leader, and he was miles ahead of Justin Trudeau. But because of the what we see as unjust and unfair tariffs, it's actually caused an increase in the support for the Liberals. And so that's what I fear, is that the longer this dispute goes on, politicians posture, and it seems to be benefiting the Liberals right now. So I would hope that we could put things on pause, is what I've told administration officials. Let's just put things on pause so we can get through an election. Let's have the best person at the table make the argument for how they would deal with it. And I think that's Pierre Poilievre. And I do agree with you that if we do have Pierre as our prime minister, then I think that there's a number of things that we could do together. Pierre believes in development. He believes in low-cost energy. He believes that we need to have low taxes. Doesn't believe in any of the woke stuff that we've seen taking over our politics for the last 5 years. So I would think that there's probably still always going to be areas that are skirmishes or disputes about particular industries when it comes to the border. But I would say, on balance, the perspective that Pierre would bring would be very much in sync with, I think, where the new direction in America. And I think we'd have a really great relationship for the period of time they're both in.
So President Trump keeps saying Canada is going to be the 51st state. I don't know how much of that is a joke and how much of it's serious. Is that something that the Canadians are open to joining the United States down the road or something like that? Talk to us about that. Like, lay out for us, like, is there any seriousness to any of this? Is there, is Canada ready to pack up and join the United States, or is that just Trump being Trump?
Well, I can maybe give a history lesson, because I know that the president likes President McKinley, and this was the last time that they tried to use tariffs to be able to annex Canada. So McKinley brought in a series of tariffs in 1890, and what happened was a counter revolution that happened in Canada. Our prime minister at the time, John A. Macdonald, said, we want to stay Canadian. Let's build a major national nation-building project, which was the Canadian Pacific Rail Line, and it made Canada stronger than ever. And in the United States, 2 years later, McKinley lost the midterms to the Democrats. So I don't know if that's the pathway that we're going to go down, but I can tell you the first part is happening. Canadians are now talking about, how do we build more pipelines, more transmission lines? How do we get more of our critical minerals to new markets? How do we act as a country, trading more with each other than we do with our southern neighbors? So I think it's having the exact opposite impact that the president intended. And the longer it goes on, if you start establishing new trade ties, some of those end up being ties that bind. We've got really strong ties that bind with the United States right now, and I don't want to see those severed. So I hope we can get over this rough patch that we have sooner rather than later.
Right, and one of the things we did see from President Trump's first term was the USMCA, right? Like, which was, they got rid of NAFTA and they brought in the USMCA, which really all sides seemed to really like, right? Like, so that was arguably one of Trump's biggest successes in his first term. So is the hope that we get back to that relationship that existed under the USMCA, and start focusing on other places where we can agree beyond that?
I would hope so. I know that the president was very proud of that in his first term. I think America has slightly different issues with Mexico than they do with Canada. I think in some ways it's easier to get a trade agreement with Canada, because we have already matched the U.S. administration's approach to making sure China is not using Canada as a backdoor to get steel and aluminum into the United States, or as a backdoor to start hollowing out the manufacturing sector. We have that same problem as well, whereas I think Mexico has a little bit more work to do in that regard. But if we can get back to 97% tariff-free relationship, there's a few issues. We've got supply-managed industries in dairy and eggs and chickens that I know are a bit of an irritant to the United States. I know they're irritated with our digital services tax. They seem to want to address the issue around the auto sector a little bit more. So there's probably some areas where we're going to have to do some detailed negotiation. But I would say our aspiration would hopefully be to be back to that virtually tariff-free relationship with the United States.
Right. And so, in Premier, the last thing I would ask you about here is that, okay, so we're talking about all this stuff with regard to trade and the tariffs and so on and so forth. But what is it that the Conservatives in Canada do want to talk about, right? Like that will lead to, a situation where Pierre can win the prime ministership later this year, what is it the major issues that you guys do want to focus on, and how do we get back to that? Like, so lay out for us the issues that Conservatives in Canada want to focus on.
Well, I can tell you from a provincial perspective, because we're one of the most conservative provinces, and so I kind of look at us as the Texas of the North, because we've got cattle, we've got oil and gas, and we want to sell a whole lot more of that. So I want to talk to the Americans, and I'll be asking my federal counterpart to do the same. How can we double oil and gas production so that we can support energy dominance for the United States? We have the ability to backfill for American consumers so that prices stay low for American consumers, and it allows American companies to then export internationally to be able to achieve national security goals. We know that we have to do more on our Arctic. That Pierre Poilievre has done a wonderful video about how it is we could build more icebreakers, establish more joint NORAD bases. Canada and U.S. already have a joint partnership on military. Let's establish more NORAD partnerships so that we can make sure that we're protecting our Arctic, as well as meeting our 2% NATO commitment. We are very much a law and order party. We've been in Alberta attacking the issue of fentanyl and opioid overdoses for the last 6 years, shutting down drug houses, shutting down fentanyl labs, punishing the bad guys, and making sure that we get support for those who are addicted so they can get off this deadly drug. And that would be a national support initiative that you would see Pierre Poilievre take. So those are the kind of things that we're talking about. I mean, also in our province, we were the first in Canada to start protecting kids, to make sure that they weren't making decisions to transition their gender identity prematurely. And so we banned puberty blockers and banned surgeries for minors, and we're not letting any adults interfere in the relationship with the child. We've also allowed for young girls and women to participate in biological female-only sports as well. So I noticed that was one of the first priorities of the president. Well, we did that as well. So that's, I think, the kind of thing that you've seen. We've all watched the wokeism go too far. We've all watched the cancel culture go too far, and we've begun the process of dialing that back, but we need a federal conservative to be able to do that same thing nationally. So I would say that those are the main things that you'd expect out of a Pierre Poilievre government.
Really impressive stuff, Premier Danielle Smith from Alberta. We got to get you back to go in depth about the Arctic and combating the Chinese Communist Party up there, because I think that's a huge thing that we have to do. So I really want to thank you for taking the time to join us here. Where can people follow along, learn more about what you guys are doing? And we have a lot of listeners in Canada, by the way. Where can they go to follow along with what you guys are doing, learn more about it?
Well, I'm on all of the social media feeds. So I've got a Rumble account and a Truth Social account. I've also got X and Facebook and Instagram. So if you can look up Danielle Smith. I'm normally AB because that's the two-letter acronym for our state, for our province. So AB Danielle Smith on most locations. And Alberta, we're just above Montana. I don't know how wide your service area is, but if you're trying to look up for us geographically, that's...
So there you go. That's pretty much most of the conversation from BREITBART. And actually, as the one guy said, I cannot listen to this video with the host. It's the host of this interview that's just a little too close to the microphone. Needs to fix his audio just a touch. So we're going to bring this back.
These are so integrated, and it's good for both partners. We certainly dependent. We probably have more. We certainly have more dependence on U.S. trade than in any other market, but it's mutually beneficial. And I wish that we'd been able to convey earlier on just how much the Americans benefit from being able to buy cheap and discounted raw materials and intermediate products, so they can do the value added to create American jobs and also keep prices lower for consumers. That's the partnership that we have, and Canada, in exchange, also becomes the principal buyer of American produced products. We're your biggest customer. So I think that we started off on the wrong foot, and now we've been trying to get that information out because we really should maintain this tariff-free relationship between our two countries. Our industries are so integrated, and it's good for both partners.
Right. So President Trump keeps saying that he wants Canada and Mexico to address the flow of fentanyl from China into their countries, into the United States, right? Like, and he wants to see actions from both countries deal with that, right? Like, and the migration crisis and whatnot. Obviously, we see a lot more of that through Mexico than Canada, but still, nonetheless, he wants to see actions from both countries in that regard. And it seems like Trudeau has put up a lot of resistance to dealing with confronting the drug trafficking and the migration crises across the border. I don't see why this shouldn't be automatic. Why shouldn't the prime minister just be like, all right, yeah, President Trump's right about this. We need to stop this stuff, and we need to take the steps to do it.
Well, I think we have. I mean, we announced $1.3 billion in additional border protection. We announced 10,000 dedicated personnel in dealing with this issue. Some of it is federal, some of it is at the subnational level and at the provincial level. We announced a border strategy that rolls out dedicated officers at the border, commercial vehicle inspection, sniffer dogs, drones, as well as Black Hawk helicopters, which have been deployed. And we've also declared cartels on the list that Americans have identified to be terrorist groups so that we can take stronger action against them. So I don't know if that's not being conveyed, but that's all of the action that Canada has taken. And we've seen a dramatic reduction in the amount of drugs. There was already a relatively small amount compared to Mexico, but we've already seen a reduction in the amount of drugs going across the border. What I can say is that we are seeing drugs coming up from the United States. We've got crystal meth and we've got cocaine that comes up from the United States, in addition to illegal guns. And in my province, the flow of people across the border is actually Americans from America. It's people sneaking in across our border at Coots, which we share with Montana. We don't have the reverse occurring. So I think it's a two-way street, and that's part of what we need to do. We need to stop the flow of drugs and people going both ways.
So now, President Trump says that Trudeau is using this back and forth right now to stay in power. Obviously, there's big questions about when there's going to be an election and so on and so forth. What do you think about that? Is Trudeau trying to use this to stay in power as a prime minister? He's been prime minister for what, 10 years, 11 years, something like that now. Is he trying to delay the inevitable here by using this back and forth with Trump to stay in power in Ottawa?
No, Trudeau's gone tomorrow, and part of it's the difference between our system. Our system's a little bit more like the British parliamentary system as opposed to yours. So to explain the difference, it would be like when the primaries are finished and you choose your Republican candidate and you choose your Democrat candidate, they immediately become president. That's the difference. Is you choose your candidate first, then have an election, and then that person becomes president after a period of time. When we have a prime minister quit, as soon as their replacement is chosen, that person becomes prime minister. So you'll be seeing a new prime minister within the next couple of days. And then that prime minister has the latitude to go as long as October before they call an election if they can continue to get support in our legislature. So that's part of the reason why Trudeau was not able to pin down a date. It's not going to be his decision. It's going to be the decision of either Chrystia Freeland or Mark Carney, who are the two likely ones to replace him tomorrow.
Right. Okay. So now, when there is an eventual election here, right? Like, so I don't know if it'll be now or in October or somewhere in between there, but we'll see. But the point is that, I would think that you would support a conservative prime minister in Canada. You're one of the few conservative premiers in Canada. One would think that a conservative prime minister would probably have a better time working with President Trump on these things, and it wouldn't be as tumultuous as what we're seeing right now. Is that something that you think is likely here? Are the Canadian people ready to go back the other way here and go away from the Liberal side that we've seen under Trudeau and whoever replaces him?
Before the tariff war, I would say yes. I mean, Pierre Poilievre is the name of the Conservative Party leader, and he was miles ahead of Justin Trudeau. But because of what we see as unjust and unfair tariffs, it's actually caused an increase in the support for the Liberals. And so that's what I fear, is that the longer this dispute goes on, politicians posture, and it seems to be benefiting the Liberals right now. So I would hope that we could put things on pause. This is what I've told administration officials. Let's just put things on pause so we can get through an election. Let's have the best person at the table make the argument for how they would deal with it. And I think that's Pierre Poilievre. And I do agree with you that if we do have Pierre as a Prime Minister, then.
So you just heard her say, put things on pause, and she spoke to the administration officials to put things on pause until the election's over. So you just heard it for yourself. Move it back just a little bit.
Are something that you think is likely here? It shouldn't be as tumultuous. What we're seeing right now is that something that you think
you hear it
is
again
likely
coming
here?
Up here.
Are the Canadian people ready to go back the other way here and go away from the Liberal side that we've seen under Trudeau and whoever replaces him?
Before the tariff war, I would say yes. I mean, Pierre Poilievre is the name of the Conservative Party leader, and he was miles ahead of Justin Trudeau. But because of the what we see as unjust and unfair tariffs, it's actually caused an increase in the support for the Liberals. And so that's what I fear, is that the longer this dispute goes on, politicians posture, and it seems to be benefiting the Liberals right now. So I would hope that we could put things on pause. This is what I've told administration officials. Let's just put things on.
Right there. She says, as I have told administration officials. So let's be clear on that. She's denied it.
And so that's what I.
So after this became an issue, she denied it. Not possible, they say. They denied it. She wouldn't do it. You're going to hear it again. I'm just going to play it once more.
I fear is that the longer this dispute goes on, politicians posture, and it seems to be benefiting the Liberals right now. So I would hope that we could put things on pause. This is what I've told administration officials. Let's just put things on pause so we can get through an election. Let's have the best person at the table make the argument for how they would deal with it. And I think that's Pierre Poilievre. And I do agree with you that if we do.
Okay. So that's there once again.
Do the name of the Poilievre is the name of the Conservative Party leader, and he was miles ahead of Justin Trudeau. But because of the what we see as unjust and unfair tariffs, it's actually caused an increase in the support for the Liberals. And so that's what I fear, is that the longer this dispute goes on, politicians posture, and it seems to be benefiting the Liberals right now. So I would hope that we could put things on pause. This is what I've told administration officials. Let's just.
Okay. She says, as I've told administration officials, put things on pause. As I've told administration officials.
Put things on pause so we can get through an election. Let's have the best person at the table make the argument for how they would deal with it. And I think that's Pierre Poilievre. And I do agree with you that if we do.
So, there's no denying it. You heard it for yourself. This is part of the recording. This is the recording. This is what you hear. Unfortunately, I could not remove the breathing issue that was going on there. So this is the BREITBART webpage. There we go. That was the same recording. This is on their webpage. I'll put their webpage link to it in the description. Also, this is the SoundCloud recording as well. And as this guy said, I cannot listen to this video with the host breathing. Need to fix your audio, buddy. Well, what can we say? What can we say? And then here we have Yahoo News. And they made an excerpt right here. And they quote Danielle Smith You can see right here, this is here, how a 2-week-old interview by Danielle Smith drove day one of the election campaign. This is on March 23, Sunday, 2025, at 2:45 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And quotes, because of what we see as unjust and unfair tariffs, it's actually caused an increase in the support for the Liberals. And so that's what I fear, is that the longer this dispute goes on, politicians posture, and it seems to be benefiting the Liberals right now. So I would hope that we could put things on pause, is what I've told administration officials. Let's just put things on pause so we can get through an election, said Smith. And you heard the recording yourself, so there's no disputing that. So no disputing that whatsoever, folks. So listen, questions, comments, throw in chat. And quite obvious that Danielle Smith has misrepresented what she has said. She denies saying that, but you've seen it for yourself. You've heard it for yourself. And I categorically support what you heard. And so we need a third person to put through a motion, and then they can plead guilty thereafter. So anyways, when things spiral out of control, do what my two buddies do. Just rest on it. Take a deep breath. Sleep on it. Sending love and peace to everyone. Take care. Talk to you all soon. Ciao for now.